8 years. It has been 8 years since City Skylines first graced our screens. The game we played back in 2015 looks quite different to the one we're still playing today, and that's mostly due to the work of the many DLCs that have now been released over the years and added increased depth and variety to the game. But which one is the best? Well, let's discuss that. So I'll do these worst to best, but that doesn't mean I think any of the DLCs are bad, just that some had more impact than others. Also, this is entirely my opinion, so if you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments or perhaps join the Discord. In last place, I'm gonna say Match Day. Releasing all the way back in 2016, we were much less demanding as a fanbase, and people were happy with a football stadium that they could put in their cities. This was also a free DLC, so you can't complain too much. Pearls from the East is another free cosmetic DLC that added some Chinese-inspired architecture to your city. It was a cool addition, but on the grand scheme of things, it was quite a small one. Some may see After Dark being so low as quite surprising, as it was quite revolutionary when it was released back in 2015, mostly because it was the first DLC ever released. It did add a lot to the game, taking City Skylines from being a permanently day city builder to having a day-night cycle. The reason it's so low? Well, I don't like building at night, so I feel myself constantly annoyed as the cycle moves to night. Concerts had a lot of potential, but in practice it was quite simple and never really lived up to what it could have been. I think if Concerts came out a few years later with the editing features of future DLC, it could have been fantastic. Potentially tied in with the ability to make Christmas markets or other community events. Instead, it remains something rarely used and for some reason never released on the console editions. The latest DLC is fine. I think to most of the fanbase, it was very disappointing to see it release as it highlighted that Cities 2 is probably further away than we had hoped. Financial Districts adds more complexity to the finance and tax systems within the game. However, for me, I play without finance, so this did very little to me as I wasn't able to access a big chunk of this release. I liked Snowfall a lot more back when it was released, but find myself never using it these days. I'd have loved Snowfall to be something that changed the base game like After Dark before it, adding a winter to your city. However, it didn't do that, and forced you to choose to live in a Frostpunk-esque permafrost city or a normal green city. Natural disasters is not my number one, as I'm sure it is for many players. I can get the enjoyment and fascination of causing chaos in my city, watching tsunamis, tornadoes or meteors raining upon my citizens. However, for me, that just doesn't do it. I can't say I ever even activated this DLC. Weirdly, as someone with no interest in fishing in real life, I actually kinda like the Sunset Harbor DLC. I tend to fall into the same formats when building my cities, and that often includes a seaside town or beach resort, so the ability to make this more authentic was a well-received addition. On top of that, the DLC brought a variety of new transport options, and who doesn't love those? The first of the new style of DLC next, with plazas and promenades. Why do I say new style DLC? Well, prior to 2018, DLC would feature pre-built block pieces that you could place in your city. Following that, many of the DLCs offered you more of a sketchpad to actually design the new things yourself. Plazas and promenades allowed you to build the pedestrian zones from scratch, something that was much welcomed as the tools to do prior were difficult to work with. Green cities got a bad rep. From what I've seen, many didn't really enjoy what it added to the game. Green City's main addition was to add new zoning tools. These are sustainable zones for residential, business, commercial. Well, it doesn't really allow you to customize the buildings. It did add a very large visual change that I still often use and enjoy. In a similar vein to Green Cities were industries. This also added additional zoning options specifically for industrial zones. While up to this point you'd had a choice of oil, coal or factories that had to be hidden away as they caused extreme pollution, now you could have a farming sector, a lumber sector, etc, etc. Airports allowed you to start micromanaging the design of your airports. Up until this point, you had the choice of a pre-built domestic airport or international airport, both of which were actually quite unrealistic in comparison to the real-world airports. Well, the Airports DLC resolved this, and now the level of airport that feature in creations is much more realistic. Park Life is one of the most expansive updates that Cities has ever had. It brought micromanagement tools and was actually the first update to do this, that enabled you to create a city park, theme park, zoo or nature reserve. The tools are a little basic now looking back, but still gave you plenty of option to make something unique and one of a kind. I'm not sure why Campus is this high, but I just really enjoy it. Perhaps it's because I look back fondly on my university days, but I really just enjoy putting together a university campus that fits within my city.
You can also make a variety of differing universities in the city, provide them with sports teams, and track the school's successes against each other. My favourite thing in City Skylines is transit, so mass transit naturally has to take the top spot for me. I'll often build my rail stations, monorail stations, and tram stations before I start building anything else, then make the city work around the transport rather than the other way around. On top of just more options for transport, this DLC also brought more management tools to help control traffic flow, something we all needed. All 15 DLCs have added something to the game. This list is based on what I enjoyed from each, but we all enjoy this game in different ways. So which DLC have you enjoyed the most and why? We may or may not have 1 or 2 more DLCs on the horizon before Cities 2 graces our screens. Is there anything you'd like to see these be? Something the game is currently missing? Let me know. That's all for today. Until next time.